We're going to talk about deep tech, and we're going to talk about one of the big battles in deep tech, and that's about talent. Of course, deep tech, you will know, groundbreaking innovation, science, engineering, requiring years of extensive research and development. Some suggest it is the new arms race, and in that battle, the talent is the ammunition. China making rapid progress in this field, but the UK and India's ambitions aren't enough just to win the war. So the key success, as I touched on, will be a skilled workforce. But what will that workforce look like, and where will it come from? So to discuss that, please welcome Joseph Mariathasan, who's the partner at Peak Ventures, Anna Avaliani, Director of Enterprise at the Royal Academy of Engineering, Bhavit, Sheth, who's the Chief Operating Officer and co-founder at Dream 11, and Akshay Chaturvedi, who's the founder of Leverage.biz. Welcome, please. Please come on in.
Yeah.
And I think we're just going to do a photo quickly.
Oh, I see. Right.
Thank you. Please take a seat. Thank you for your patience, because there's a lot for us to get through today, but delighted to see you all, so welcome. Joseph, let me maybe start with you, if I can, because you're a partner at Peak Ventures, and, you know, there's so much for us to talk about here, but I touched on the element of talent being the real battleground here, where that new source of talent and education will come from. Are you confident that the pipeline for talent in deep tech is there, and that we have the right people doing the right jobs right now?
Sorry, do you mean in the UK or in India? Or
both. Give me a sense.
I mean, India is producing huge amounts of talent. The IITs have now expanded in number over the last 30 years. There's huge numbers of them. The question is where they're going and where they're staying, and a lot of them are actually going to the US. The problem in the UK is that, sure, that it's producing lots of talent. The UK's got 4 of the top 20 research universities in the world, in Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial, and UCL. My son is an undergraduate at Imperial, just around the corner, studying biomedical engineering. He told me, Dad, I need to get a job in the States, because there are no biomedical engineering companies in the UK apart from Oxford Nanopore, who he's worked for once. So the problem with the UK is, I think there is a pipeline of talent coming through in terms of the engineering sector. But if you look at Imperial, all his engineering colleagues all want to go off and join the city, because the city is paying such a multiple of what the engineering sector pays in the UK. So yes, the UK has lots of engineering talent, but they're not staying in engineering here.
So therefore contrast that to India, and it's a different picture.
Well, yes and no. I think there are more fundamental issues around the UK economy, in that it can produce lots of innovation, but the market is too small for it to expand. So I'm a partner of a venture capital firm in India. I'm director of a couple of tech firms as well. But what we're doing in India is taking climate-related technologies from around the world and scaling them up in India. Now, one of the ideas we're really trying to push is the idea of setting up a UK fund to invest in UK university climate tech spin-outs that we can scale up in India. Because the problem is the UK market is just too small.
Right.
So rather than all of those clever academics come out with wonderful products and then saying, let's go to the States, we're saying, well, look, actually, why don't we take this product, find an Indian partner, an Indian distributor, an Indian manufacturer, and combine the scale of the Indian market with the innovation in the UK. And so we've got to find clever ways of getting around this problem that the UK market is, first of all, too small for many firms to grow. And secondly, the finance sector in the UK is attracting the best engineering minds. And my son wants to be an engineer, but he feels he can't stay in the UK.
And you've still not convinced him yet?
I'd love to. I mean, look, I'd love to. You know, maybe get a girlfriend here or something, force him to stay here. But you know, I don't want him to go to America. I want him to stay here. But what can I say to him?
Yeah, actually on that point, you know, so if Joseph says there is the talent, you know, where you come in is sort of upskilling, reskilling, you know, this next generation of talent, isn't it, using technology to do so. Where are the gaps? You know, because I suppose with your firm, you are addressing those gaps in the skilling.
Well, thanks for having me. I agree to a very large extent with what was said, but I think what's also important is that the Indian curriculum as it exists today, it's not as advanced as we would like to think it is. And I think I'm going back to the question you kind of first asked him. is the pipeline really big enough?
Yeah.
I somehow think it is not. And I think I have a front row seat to that. You have the IITs, but what do the IITs kind of total up to? They total up to a few thousand students in a country which needs 42 million seats. And then you, of course, combine it with what is happening with the British universities here. You combine it with the innovation that happens here. And I think the first steps that have been taken with the UK-India FTA, I think they essentially follow on some of these things. Where you're saying that, hey, if we come together, we can essentially compete with some of the larger markets. We can together bring in that talent plus innovation ecosystem and sell to the European market, sell to the Southeast Asian ecosystem. And I think that together can essentially be way more competitive than both the nations individually in their current capacities. So yeah, there are those inklings of thoughts which can lead on to something bigger. But I would, in a very honest way, say that both India and UK individually are not great talent pipes per se for deep tech as it stands today.
Anna, is Joseph right that talent is moving elsewhere? That we can't hold on to it in this country?
Well, I would dare to disagree. I would dare to disagree from where I see it and what I see. So I work at the Royal Academy of Engineering, and we are supporting some of the best, amongst other things, we're supporting some of the best engineers and technologists who are looking to start up and grow their companies. And what we see is UK continues to be the talent magnet. You know, we've got many of, if I look at our portfolio companies, about a third are started by people who have actually moved to the UK to study, and then they have decided to remain here and start up and grow their businesses here. So deep tech is what we do well here in the UK. You know, my fellow panelists have mentioned the institutions in the UK that are continuing to produce some of the best talent, some of the best research and development is happening in this country, and that is across the whole spectrum of deep tech. You know, life sciences, we have about a third of our 450 strong portfolio is life sciences and deep tech. Do we have enough life sciences and healthcare? You know, so talent is definitely here. European tech is exciting. UK is a good place for people to start business. There is availability of startup capital, growth capital, potentially a challenge there, but there are initiatives that are beginning to be rolled out, you know, to tackle that problem. So yes, I would say that UK continues to be a talent magnet.
I think the gap is really in the growth capital that you just mentioned, because the natural investor for risk capital in the UK used to be the UK pension funds. In the year 2000, UK pension funds had 75% of their assets in global equities, of which 70% of that was UK equities. Today, UK pension funds have less than 6% in UK equities, less than 6%. Now, let that sink in. It's moved in from 70% in UK equities to less than 6%.
But that's beginning to change with AIM and companies.
No, it's not. It's not at all. I mean, the problem at the moment is that the defined benefit schemes, which were the big schemes, have all de-risked because of legislation following the Maxwell affair and globalization. They're trying to get DC, defined contribution schemes, to invest more in risk capital, but that's a slow process. So the natural investor in UK's risk capital has disappeared. And that's the real challenge for the UK at the moment. Yeah, at the venture stage, it's fine. At the growth capital stage, you know, when you're talking about 300 million upwards, 500 million upwards, the natural investor has disappeared, and that's a huge problem.
Yes, that is indeed a problem. But equally, we're seeing the impact of Mansion House reform, so which you know is an initiative that has been has been designed to tackle that very problem. You know, we would like to see it translated into action much faster. But there are certainly some real positive moves. So if I look at the deep tech venture capital firms here in the UK, there's about 50 plus of them that are active, and we have seen some significant fundraisers in recent past. So Cambridge Innovation Capital is one of those that has raised a significant fund to invest in deep tech. So yes, growth capital is a challenge, but there are interesting initiatives that are afoot that we hope are going to make a significant difference. And we are also also seeing some of the international investors coming to London and more actively seeking to invest in UK-based companies. The best ecosystem is where you have this kind of homegrown as well as international capital, and we haven't got the balance right just yet, but moving in the right direction.
That's right, but one of the things I'm very keen on is the idea of maybe getting some of the homegrown investors to invest in startups that we can scale up in India and take the best of both worlds.
Yes. I mean, we with Imperial, interesting you mentioned Imperial. So the Academy is partnering with Imperial College London to deliver a program called Science and Technology Venture Capital Fellowship Program, which is trying to address that sort of challenge around deep tech investing. So we've got deep tech and life sciences investors, mid-career investors who we hope are going to become fund managers going forward and start investing more aggressively in deep tech companies here in the UK. And this is one of the UK government initiatives as well.
Bhavit, let me bring you in at this point. You're sitting patiently here next to me. Talk to me, because in some respects you're a sort of customer of some of this tech at the other end of the scale, but you're focusing on developing grassroots innovation and skill set in terms of the next generation. Talk to me about where you need that to be, what that looks like for you, and whether you are confident that it is happening.
Yeah, as you said, we are at that confluence of sports and technology, and we need to be at the forefront of tech innovation. And which means that we have to get good talent. One of the things we realize now is that the talent coming in is more ready to embrace new tech than the talent that's already there, because it's difficult for people to change. It takes time for people to change. So when we get new talent in and we train them on new technology, it's easier for them to pick it up and use that as status quo for them, right? So obviously, for us, AI has become very, very significant. ML has become very significant. And what we realized also with India is that there was a certain talent pool and there's a certain amount of capability that was there with Indian talent. Right. And so we wanted to expand that capability set. So what we did is we actually tied up with Columbia University to get access to their PhD students, their professors, and then we hired a few people out there as well to work on difficult problems that our people could not really solve, but at the same time also train people in India, the people in our team, so that we can upskill them over time. And in fact, we've just last week signed a similar agreement with University of Liverpool. And we want to do this joint research initiative where we have the data, we have the problem sets, and we are trying to find, the best talent out there, whether it be, Columbia University or Liverpool or anywhere else, to be able to, use that data set to solve problems. And in the process also upskill people. And I think that's where, we really are focusing on. The other thing is very different kind of grassroots. We also focus on athletes, and we focus on how to get athletes from grassroots to professional athletes. And one of the things that we are working out on with these athletes is a lot of sports science programs. Whether the athlete is suitable for a sport or not at a young age, bases certain movements of the body, certain body structure, and certain parameters that we've developed by using a lot of athlete data. Yep. And now we actually are investors in Salford City FC as well, which is a Division 2 club in UK. And we get a lot of data from there, and that that's something that we can extend to Salford City, that once we build this model, once we have that data, how do we use the collaboration to actually bring our sports science models here to Salford? And so that's, these are kind of initiatives that we are doing in deep tech, where we try to upskill talent because there's only a certain talent pool available. So how do you expand that? Yep. And then how does that help whether the business or whether it be our foundation side of things?
So Akshay, that point that there's only a certain amount of talent, how do we expand that pool? That's partly your job. And I said in that introduction that, deep tech is the new arms race, talent is the ammunition. I mean, is that a fair kind of assessment of how critical this is and could be?
In my humble opinion, very humble opinion, 1000%. You can have the IP, you can have the billions of dollars, you can have all of those interesting things, and yet if you don't have talent, essentially it will all gonna go poof to zero.
Yeah.
The problem is I don't think enough countries, including, and I agree with what you said, Anna, BII, BBB, all are making more investments, it's getting better. LSE has started off AIM, which is ensuring more growth capital for companies in that stage. But all said and done, from a policy maker perspective, we still don't view talent as critical infrastructure, as it should. We often think of it from the lens of, as I was saying before, when we're kind of getting mic'd up, immigration / more white papers, 24 to 18 months, 5 years to 10 years, blah, 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 blah. I think we need to kind of start taking it from the perspective of, hey, this is critical infrastructure, and if we don't have this, if we don't win this war on talent, as we were kind of talking right before, we will essentially lose this battle to either Germany or Poland, which has made a great leap in their fortunes over the last decade, or to the US, which has done this the best over the course of last, you would say, half a century.
Yeah.
So I think the UK needs to change its lens of looking at talent, and that in itself, I think your question is kind of, in some sense, a prophecy, right? If that happens, UK and India are bound to win together. Goes back to my original comment.
Yeah, and Anna, that's a similar question for you in the sense of how academia lines up then with the real world, and how we make those links better, that we're training that next generation properly, and also that there is an education around the importance of that learning for the next generation of jobs that will be available.
Yes, absolutely. So I don't think there is any lack of understanding of the importance of talent. The academic institutions in this country are very much in that business, and there is also quite a close collaboration with industry, because that is the only way one can train up talent that is fit for purpose. Do we know what the skills of tomorrow are? It's difficult to tell, right? I mean, there are jobs that exist now that absolutely did not exist 20 years ago, and in 20 years' time there will be jobs that will exist that we have no idea about now. But we understand the direction of travel. We know that green jobs are important. We know that AI is going to play a very, very important part in our future. So, making sure, one of the things that the Academy is doing at the moment, we're setting up a brand new skills center in many ways to address that challenge, the challenge of skills shortage, because we don't in this country have enough engineers, and address that challenge around, building a workforce that's future-proof and suitable for what's to come.
And Joseph, a final thought from you on what's to come. If we use your son as a sort of anecdotal example, what is your, get your crystal ball out. What is your best bet on what this looks like over the next decade? Where is the money going, and where are the skills?
Yeah, well, what I would hope will happen is, as Anna mentioned, the Mansion House Accord is trying to persuade defined contribution schemes to put 10% of their assets into risk capital. If that did happen, you'd get 50 billion or more going into the sort of companies we're talking about. The real problem, I think, in the UK isn't the pipeline of talent coming out of the universities. It's actually keeping them in the UK or keeping them in the engineering sector in the UK, because the finance sector dominates so strongly. See, when I left university, I did a doctorate in physics at Oxford 40 years ago. When I left, 70% of all the jobs in physics and engineering in the UK were in the defense sector, because it was the height of the Cold War. Then the Berlin Wall fell down, and the Cold War ended, and all those scientists and engineers all joined the city, as did I, because that's where all the money was. Today, the money is still there in the city. Maybe the defense sector grows up again. My son even told me, my mother-in-law sent an email this morning saying, it looks as though there's going to be World War III. And my son said, no, there's not, but there's loads of jobs in the defense sector now. And that's the tragedy of it, that the UK still needs to put money into engineering companies and see them grow into unicorns. And how do we actually create that? I don't think there's a shortage of talent. I think there's a shortage of money going into growth capital.
At that point, we will leave it. Really nice to see you all. Thank you. To Akshay, to Anna, to Bhavit, and to Joseph, thank you so much. It's a fascinating conversation. Thank you for being with us. Thank you.